Professor Olopade. Just using this to check that all connections are good and you are ready.
Good afternoon. We are good.
Good afternoon.
We are
Good
ready.
afternoon, Dr. Dubanjo.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Good to see you too.
Thank you for accepting to do it. And perhaps I see a lot of people are eager. In fact, with this first slide, my eagerness has jumped up threefold, looking at the first slide. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to another webinar by the Nigerian Academy of Science. And we will not, take a lot of time doing much of the preliminaries, other than to say that the Nigerian Academy of Science is the highest independent scientific society in the country, which has a two-pronged function. One is scientific advice to government and other stakeholders, which is another way to translate that is to say that the Nigerian Academy of Science is a bridge, between scientific research and evidence and the policy-making world. So connect data, research, findings, and all for the purpose of policy making. We translate it in a way that the policymakers and decision makers can use it for their decisions. The second action of the academy, or mission, if you wish, is to develop science, promote the development of science in the country. And that the academy does through many other avenues, giving prizes. The most important and most popular, of course, is the election of distinguished Nigerian scientists home abroad into the fellowship as fellows of the Nigerian Academy of Science. And we will, and one of the ways for doing the science advice you do is this webinar, where information is provided to the general public that can be used for proper decision making. It's a pleasure today, again, before we get into the webinar proper, to welcome the president of the Nigerian Academy of Science to also welcome us, give us some of his remarks. He'll be speaking very shortly. It's a privilege to have him available just to welcome us today and tell us a few of the things that are on his mind. Professor Abubakar Sambo FAS is the president of the Nigerian Academy of Science. He's himself a distinguished energy expert. This is not on energy per se, but this also includes energy because this is brain drain, gain, and FAG. So everything involved also includes the energy experts. So I'm sure it's also a topic he would have a lot to say if he was presenting on it. But today he will just welcome us, as it were, and we are grateful we have Professor James Olopade, who will be the actual presenter, and Professor Esther Akinlabi will help us moderate later. So before we get to that, let's please appreciate and welcome the president of the Nigerian Academy of Science, Professor Abubakar Sambo FAS. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, fellows of the Academy. I can see quite a handful, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to see so many of you have even joined the webinar before it started. So more than 20, and it's a good sign. Actually, the popularity of the Nigerian Academy of Science soared very highly a couple of years ago when we endowed Mr. President as the grand patron of science in our country. And with that, we are moving on to ensure the science takes its proper place in Nigeria. I'm very glad to see the enthusiasm to listen to this important topic on brain drain. Like Doyin has mentioned, we have so many interests, and I'm glad to see that myself and the moderator, we seem to be from the same discipline. I believe she's in mechanical engineering, which is what I am. And we think later we'll organize some webinars to touch on engineering. But today, this afternoon, we are going to discuss brain drain. Brain drain is a very teething problem. And while most of the after effects are negative, there's a little bit of it, there is the brain gain. And I hope this webinar will also touch on both these two sides. And with this, I want to say once again, welcome to today's webinar of the Nigerian Academy of Science. So over to you, moderator.
Thank you, sir. I'll just introduce her also in the brief line, and then she takes over from here. And like the president said, Professor Esther Akinlabi FAS is a mechanical engineer herself and program director of the ASU-CSU Mechanical Engineering Partnership Program, the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Colorado State University in the US. So she will be introducing the speaker today and moderating the discussions. So thank you very much, Professor Akinlabi. I think it must be around 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. if you're in Colorado. So thank you for being up early to moderate the session. Thank you. And over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dubanjo. Good morning from here. It's 6 a.m. for me, and good afternoon to everyone, and good evening to some other people joining from other parts of the world as well. Thank you to our president, Professor Sambo FAS, and Dr. Dubanjo for setting the scene. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the webinar this afternoon. And it's my pleasure to now read the bio of our erudite speaker for this webinar. Professor James Olopade is a professor of neuroscience, comparative anatomy, and surveillance biology at the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. He had his postdoctoral training in experimental neurosurgery at Penn State College of Medicine in USA. He has worked on the anatomy of the brains of unique African rodents and pioneered laboratory and field studies on the effect of environmental pollution of the brain. Professor Olopade is the most cited veterinarian in Africa in the field of neuroscience. He has trained 13 PhD graduates in the fields of neuroscience and comparative anatomy. He is currently the editor-in-chief of the Proceedings of Nigerian Academy of Science. He is a fellow of both the Nigerian and the African Academy of Sciences. Please join me with your sign of emojis to welcome our speaker for today, Professor James Olopade FAS. Thank you. Over to you, Prof. Thank you. Professor James?
Thank you very much, Ma. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank again the president of the Academy of Science, Professor Sambo, for inviting me. I'll be giving this talk on brain drain, brain gain, brain fag, why charity must begin at home. When we hear of brain drain, the first thing we start to think about are human beings, young people leaving their country. Why that is correct, there's a reason why we put the adjective to the brain. Okay, to the brain, that is the brain that has been drained. We are losing capacity because the brain is 2% of the body weight, but consumes 20% of the oxygen of the body. The brain is a very efficient, super efficient bioelectrical device with about 150 plus billion cells, of which close to 100 billion are neurons. The brain has has high density, cellular density, and also has a very high density of blood vessels. So you have, if you stretch out all the blood vessels in the brain, it can run to as much as 100,000 kilometers, or that is packed within 1.4 centimeter cubed of volume, and the brain has about over 1 trillion connections of the cells between themselves, and the brain is well protected. So when we say brain drain, the way most of us understand it is young people, skilled, intelligent, taking global opportunities, okay, which makes them to leave their country to other countries in search of greener pasture. And brain gain, primarily, we'll be looking at people who are trained in other climes, well trained, and they are coming back home either partially or fully to come and contribute their talents to their country, maybe home country, for development. And brain fag, for the benefit of this discussion, for the sake of this discussion, is looking at two sides of the coin. That on one side, we are talking of a system in which there is idleness. People don't exert themselves. Problems are left. Problems are not solved. People don't task themselves to solve problems because there is despair. Or in other cases, people want to solve problems, but there are a few people, they are understaffed and they are overworked. So by and large, brain fag either talks of intellectual exhaustion or intellectual underutilization or intellectual burnout. Okay, so but brain drain is real. Brain drain is real. I gave this snapshot, this picture of just a representative of best graduating students in the veterinary school in the last 10 years. It's a snapshot. The best graduating students. Okay, I've brought about 18 to represent them. 6 of them, more than 6 in this picture, on finishing the first degree, have a PhD admission in the US. No master, some of them no NYSC. So they were delights, great delight to teach in the class, because these were brains, intelligent people. You interact with them, you see the intellect that they have. But all these people, I think I can speak for veterinary medicine, are currently out of the country. Some of them have finished their PhD. Most of them are on their PhD work. Most of them are in the US. One of them is in Cambridge. She just finished the master. She's staying behind. So is in Canada, one of them. So one is in Virginia Med School doing his postdoc. So these are people, they're Nigerians. They were all trained here, but they are out in better climes for better opportunities. And these were our best. So what we're talking about in veterinary medicine can replicate in other professions in other universities. So let's now put some data, some global data. You have a place like China. Between 1978 to 2010, China has it on record that 70% of Chinese students that went abroad, most of them to the US, never returned back to China. Okay, then as of 2008, there was a subset of population of Chinese that were studied who went abroad and found out 25% returned. So brain drain there is a reality of it in which the host country where people are living seems to know the effect more. Let's bring our data closer to home. Now, in a survey done to medical doctors in Ghana, 72% of them, these are doctors in Ghana, when they did the survey, said they want to emigrate to the US, to the UK, to Canada. In Uganda, close to half of the medical students that were surveyed said they want to emigrate. Now, emigration is not too far away from the remuneration. In Uganda, a doctor earns about $1,300 a month. In Nigeria, currently it's about $400 a month. But in the United States, it's between 18 to 24,000. So one can understand why there is a brain flight, okay? Because people are looking for better opportunities and better remuneration. Now, still stay with the medical profession. There are close to 11,000 Nigerian doctors registered to practice in the United Kingdom. This is third behind India and Pakistan. There are 42,000 nurses that left Nigeria between 2022 and 2024. A survey after COVID-19, 88% of Nigerian doctors say they want to emigrate. So the NMA says about over 4,000 doctors left 2024, 2025, doctors and dentists. Now, this publication that I'm showing is actually a recent one, June 18, 2026. So just about a week ago, exactly a week. It says 25,000 Nigerian doctors are left to treat 220 million people. That's because many have left. Okay, and this doesn't say the story. The real story is when you look at specialties, pediatric neurosurgeons, dermatologists, okay, people to treat mental health. Yes, the disproportionate low amount in the country speaks, whereas many are trained in this area, but they leave the country. Now, I want to explain brain drain on two sides. The one that we commonly know, young graduates, best students. They are looking for global career opportunities. Many of them have platforms to fulfill their ambition. Humboldt, Fulbright, Rhodes, particularly when they have their PhD, many with university scholarships, okay, that being given by Harvard, Stanford, Cambridge. So they leave after their first degree, some leave after their master's, after PhD. Why are they leaving? Educational advancement, career exposure, good remuneration. They have reagents to work with, consumables to work with. Those who go and do PhD, they have opportunity to be graduate assistants. They are paid, and their school fees is taken care of. They can work, they can fulfill their potentials, they can work hard, can stay long in the lab. However, the reality is that the country lacks opportunity to keep many of these talents. It's a global world, okay? So if we want to stop this, there has to be a well-thought, improved pathways to keep early career professionals. The second aspect of brain drain is one we really don't look at. This, I'm talking of established people, regional bank managers, senior IT professionals, assistant directors in corporate settings. You see them, the man is well paid, at least in the Nigerian setting, he's being paid 2.5 to 3 million naira every month. But he liquidates his assets, sells off his cars, his houses, and lives with his family. Most of this category to Canada, to Australia, where there are targeted visas to these people. These are mentors. These are experienced people. These are people who have grown corporate organizations. They are training people. They have expertise and competence. Suddenly, they leave. And then there is now critical system failure when many experienced people like this leave. But this is, it's getting far more than we know. And the major reason is that there's like a systemic disillusionment about the country. They fear for their safety. Even though they are well paid, they have security guards. They can pay for electricity, get inverters, and could take care of water, things that are a problem. But yet there is growing systemic disillusionment, and also there's good remuneration. While it's being paid $3 million, 3 million naira per month, but there are adverts for job to pay $8,000, $11,000, okay, for that skill set. And so people leave. But it's not only about drain, there's also gain. Let's go to where the data is. In China, for example, in 2017, it's recorded that 10,000 researchers returned to China from the United States. But this is not by accident. Between 2010 and 2021, China increased research and development investments from $225 billion to $718 billion. Actually, in 2024, China accounted for 27.4% of the global research and development, and for the first time surpassed the United States. So we can see from the China experience, and that has continued, that brain gain was engineered. They designed to have the gain. They established visiting professorships, flexible ways in which for people to become part-time professors. They deliberately set up a China Silicon Valley so that they can have a viable intellectual ecosystem for Chinese in the ICT area who are returning. So brain gain can occur, but it has to be engineered, planned for. Nigeria, do we have gain? We sure do. We have people who come back, who come and train, come and give lectures. Yes, they're back partially. We have the NHS, Nigeria Knowledge Transfer, that does have short training programs for doctors within the country. We have doctors who organize themselves and come to the country seasonally to come and do specialized surgeries. We have researchers who come, who co-supervise masters, PhD students. And to a great extent, we have huge diaspora remittances. About $20 million is averagely per year is being known to be remittances from the diaspora back to the country. This huge money. It's about 5% of GDP. It pays school fees for many young people that could have been out of school. It helps against malnutrition for many children that will have been suffering. It contributes a lot to the construction industry in Nigeria, thereby keeping people at work. So there is some gain particularly from diaspora remittances, but we have not seen sufficient gain in getting knowledge transfer back to the country. But it's not that it doesn't happen. And the anchor for today, Professor Akinlabi, is a good example. She's regularly in Nigeria teaching, taking responsibilities. At the Academy of Science induction, we had Professor Kunle Odunsi, an IFE-trained medical doctor, trained at Obafemi Awolowo University, IFE, who is currently the Dean of Oncology, Biological Science Division at the University of Chicago Medical Comprehensive Cancer Center. He came to talk, led to intense brain discussion, interaction. He also told us about countries in Africa that they are doing like outreach to, so that they can help, collaborate, assist, okay, in their work on genetics, immunotherapy, particularly of ovarian cancer. These are ways, little by little, that we get our best back to the country to come and increase the discussion, change the paradigm, add to equipment, build capacity. A good story, a good success story is from Professor Funmilayo Olopade, no relations, who have worked extensively breast cancer in Uganda, Cameroon, Nigeria. She has found out that the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes mutation, there's a high prevalence in Nigeria with Nigerian women, and this is leading to more aggressiveness of the cancer and low outcomes of treatment. Okay, so thank God for the genetics that was done. Unless we will have been spending a lot of effort and money on treatment and will not be getting adequate result. And her and her team continue to working with pathologists, radiologists to integrate digital pathology and advanced AI-driven image technologies into different medical centers in Nigeria and Cameroon. So the brain gain is there. But where is the investment? The US spent, in 2022 data, spent about $900 billion on research and development. China spent about almost 800. Okay, Nigeria is quite low. So roughly $1 billion, and is quite low also to the percentage of our GDP. So there is a relative lack of investment, an investment gap, which is leading to a structural exhaustion of the intellectual palace. Okay, so charity has to begin at home, because there's a problem. Between 2023 and 2024, it's estimated that across all professional cadre, there has been a 200% surge in people leaving the country. But we can see from the Chinese experience that brain gain is engineered and is not accidental. 30 years of deliberate research and development investments. Okay? So Nigeria has to build these conditions: infrastructure, good governance, good remuneration, so that more people can return either partially in collaboration or permanently. $20 billion in annual remittance, why good, can still not replace intellectual absence. One of the areas Nigeria has to turn a new leaf to is human clinical trials. They are rough. Let's pick the year 2025 alone. There are over 6,000 clinical trials in the United States, over 7,000 clinical trials in China, human clinical trials. But in the whole of Africa, there are just about 1,000. And most of this is domiciled in South Africa, Egypt. So you have very low participation in clinical trials, and obviously that leads to very low understanding of disease process, disease mechanisms, and contribution to drug development. And what is the product of this? We always buy drugs in billions of naira, tens of billions, hundreds of billions from countries where they've done clinical trials for. And some of these drugs may not fit the genetic profile of our people in Nigeria. So, but we are happy. It's not all bad news. There's the proposed National Research and Innovation Development Fund, NRIDF, which commits $500 million annually to research funding for Nigeria's knowledge economy. This has been signed by Mr. President. We are looking forward to implementation so that we start to face our problems. Like I said, we need expanded genetic survey and genetic study, genetic surveillance of Nigerians. How this contribute to diseases, how this can lead to resistance to some drugs. We also need to work more on drug development, particularly drugs, new drugs from plants, or drugs that are being upgraded through medicinal chemistry. I'll take a few samples of our problems. Look at malaria. 24% of global burden of malaria is in Nigeria. 32% of adults in Nigeria either suffer from hypertension or diabetes. 53% of Nigerians, particularly in northern Nigeria, suffer from malnutrition. 20 to 30% of Nigerians, with increasing percentage among the young people, are suffering from mental health disorders. These are problems that are unique to us. So I look forward to this funding that, I mean, you can design to say, okay, there is a call, a $15 million investment, 5-year grant to look for newer drugs for hypertension and diabetes in Nigeria. And then you can call, I assess professorship across the universities in Nigeria. You see people do very nice work with using rodent models from Nigerian plants against diabetes. And then you see all what is showed in the rodent model, that this is good, it is safe, but it doesn't go deeper than that. The next thing, there's another drug. 2 years later, there is using again. And so but we need to have moved such things to the genetics of Nigerians suffering diabetes and hypertension, then to take this drug into clinical trials, and then we can even upgrade it with medicinal chemistry. So those are the things. Look at malnutrition. There could be plants, there could be seeds in this country that can have crude protein of about maybe 30%, 40%. Those are game changers for malnutrition. But there has to be in deliberate and intense research and experimentation to look for such things from our environment. So charity begins at home. We need to solve our own problems. Malaria, hypertension, mental health, their own problem. Millions are affected. This work needs to be done significantly by our own people, local and diaspora collaboration. And that's why I said from the funding, if they give $15 million to look for newer cures to diabetes in the next 5 years, we can attract people from diaspora. We can have them in 3 months as research stay in the country. We collaborate with other Nigerians that we know are experts in the field, and then we can work. So our own problem needs to be solved by our own people with our own resources, our own plants, from our own labs, with our own money, our own funding. So I've talked about this. Genetics needs to be genetic surveillance of Nigerians needs to be done. We need to continue on this. What are the genetics risks for hypertension, for diabetes, for mental health? Then we need to do drug development. Look at a case example from the US. There's a plant from Gabon. The Stanford scientists tested it and found out that 83% of the disease process in traumatic brain injured veterans were ameliorated within 1 month. They got the attention of President Trump. President Trump declared the plant a plant of national security importance to the United States and backed it with $50 million. Texas State has backed that research with another $50 million. So that's a country. They have problems with veterans that have traumatic brain injuries, and they are trying to solve their own problems. And now they got plants not from their country. No mention was made of Gabon. But what was important to them is the national security importance of the United States. So let me talk about some of the research work from our lab that talked about the brain. We looked at brains of African giant rat from Niger Delta and from the rainforest in Ibadan. Look at the dopaminergic neurons, okay? That destruction causes Parkinson. This is rainforest. This is Niger Delta. You can see loss and pycnosis and lack of viability. This is parvalbumin firing neurons, interneurons from the rainforest, but from the rats from the Niger Delta. You can see the same thing, orexin A neurons, rainforest, Niger Delta, and the melanin concentrating hormone neurons, rainforest, Niger Delta. We have also looked at these rats from the rainforest and rats that are living on dump sites, in which a huge population of Nigerians now live and work on dump sites. Look at the Purkinje cells in the cerebellum from the rainforest. Look at the ones from the dump site. Increased brown shows increased folded protein. So there's this malfolding proteins in the brain. Increase in dump site, you can see compared to the one from the forest in Ibadan. Also, look, the most misfolded tau protein. Increased brown color shows increased density of folded protein tau from the dump site compared to the rainforest. And destroyed myelin, that's brain fat, being destroyed. You can see huge destruction in brown color from the dump site compared to the rainforest. If we have access to the funds that are coming now, these are things we can move deeper into with clinical science, clinical trials being done. We have also looked at plants. These are local plants from moringa, an extract with medicinal chemistry that actually helps to ameliorate demyelination. Okay, so with this rodent model, if we move to clinical trials, we can get better results for our people. We have also looked at a metal, low vanadium, as it ameliorates hydrocephalus. This work was my lab and Professor Shokumbi's lab. So I think I want to end acknowledging my fathers in neuroscience. These fathers didn't teach me. They were just icons before me. I followed them. They didn't teach me in the classroom, but they taught me with their research ethos and lifestyle. Professor Gureje, Professor Shokumbi, Professor Oguniyi, psychiatrist, neurosurgeon, and neurologist, all FAS. I want to thank all the 4 vice chancellors that have been under in the last as a researcher, okay? Because you are talking of TED Fund, you are talking of the new research fund. None of those things will have great impact if we do not have vice chancellors that are interested in building the research infrastructure. So in the last 20 years, I'm happy for overseas training, for paying for equipment, for giving me facilities and building to continue our research work. Having vice chancellors that are interested in the research infrastructure remains important for our growth, and they have to be there consistently for at least 2 decades. I want to thank the president of the Academy of Science for inviting me to this talk. My references, thank you very much for listening.
Wow. Thank you very much, Professor Olopade, for your thought-provoking and inspiring presentation. This is really, no one else could have had all of this the amount of data that you have presented, and also the wealth of knowledge and your experience and skills that you have brought to bear. And thank you so much for taking out the time, and really appreciate your presentation. So we're going to be taking questions, and I want to open the Q&A session. I can see someone raising hand. I will appreciate that you please type in your question in the, please click on the Q&A. Professor Caleb Adilowo, please type in your questions in the Q&A, and then I will ask your questions. To set the scene, I have one question for you, Professor Olopade, while participants are typing their questions in the Q&A box. My question to you is, how do we reconcile the individual right to global mobility to the collective right of a developing nation like Nigeria to retain its talents?
Thank you very much, ma'am. It's a pertinent question. I don't see the global drift from Nigeria reducing. In a country of 220 million, with good teachers and a good history, there are a lot of intelligent students. And even if we start to invest adequately, sufficiently in Nigeria, it will still take decades before you can have a high quantum of top scientists, Nigerians who have trained abroad, come home permanently. So the fact that Nigerians are going to places, global places of global standard, high global repute, to go and do PhD, masters, and they are working there, is a plus for the country. Is a plus at this stage of our development. Is a plus. But we need to start having an engineered process sustained over decades to say, how do we benefit from our people, fellow Nigerians who are trained in the best places in the world, to start to come back home, either partially or permanently, to interact. Thank God for the digital. We are seeing many of our professors, young lecturers, assistant professors, teach in postgraduate courses by Zoom, digital. They join classes, they supervise, co-supervise, masters, co-supervise, PhD. So the process has started, but it just needs more deliberate investment by government. Okay, you can actually give a call to say, okay, I can apply for a grant. That grant must include a top scientist Nigerian in the diaspora to collaborate with it. And I should say the platform of how the person will be coming back to Nigeria to join in the research process. So it has to be an engineered way to gain from the gain that we have of people being trained in global best places across the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. Yes, I hear you loud and clear that government, and I think it also starts with us as well, FAS members, and in all, that we should be intentional about trying to ensure that we collaborate and have, you mentioned partial brain gain. So I think we can start from somewhere. And like you said, it's happening. And then we need to have a lot more from with respect to having some partial brain gain of people collaborating, people coming back home and being passionate and being committed and being patriotic about our country, Nigeria. I don't have questions yet from, okay. Right. I think I have one question now for you, Prof. Thank you for your presentation. Please, where is the job located in Nigeria? There are PhDs who returned home but have no job. They are scarce skilled. and a number of them have now left for postdocs in Canada, Australia, the USA, Spain, and etc. This is a true example. Is it a comment or a question for you?
Yeah, I think those are realities. I'm happy that at least they don't remain idle. They are trained enough to still get positions in Canada and in US. But let me just give a flip coin to that. At least I know in the last three years, University of Ibadan must have employed new lecturers, masters, PhDs, over 1,005. But we have lost a significant amount of them. They got employed, and within a year, many resigned, got postdocs in the US. So that I'm facing the reality that the infrastructure to keep most of these brilliant people still needs to be worked on. And we have to be intentionate about it. Okay? We are dealing with a new generation. They know the whole world. The likes of Professor Tomori, I don't know if it's here, people like Professor Tomori, Professor Bamiro and co. When they were leaving the country, they knew they were just going to go and train, build capacity, and were coming back. I mean, that was the mindset when they were in the airport. But 90% now at the airport, when they are boarding, they're actually saying their bye-byes to the country. So we need to put in more, the realities of today is there are some that have decided to stay. Some of us have decided to stay. We did our post. Then some who are abroad have decided to keep giving back home. So we need more people to stay. We need more people in the diaspora to keep giving back. But we need the government to be more intentional about building an infrastructure with a 30-year dream of how do we become self-sufficient, sustainable in the doctors we have, in ICT industry, in building solar panels in this country. There has to be plans. And then in those plans must involve Nigerians, both local and diaspora. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much for your answer to Professor Babadola FAS. Our next question is from Professor Okeke FAS. She's asking, what can we do to enhance and formalize the postdoctoral cadre in Nigeria? Most research leaders in and outside Nigeria do postdocs, where they learn not just to do research, but to manage and articulate it. There are few options for these, and the Nigerian Academy does not formally recognize this cadre, so that most people who are interested will go abroad. Did you get the question?
That's a very good question, man. I can say authoritatively that close to over 7 years ago, about that, University of Ibadan wrote, because I was in the committee, wrote a proposal to TED Fund to be a postdoctoral center. Okay, they put the budget, they put the amount of people per year, but nothing came out of that, because you have to start from somewhere. You have to start from somewhere. If you want to keep people after the PhD, you have to be able to retain some of them, to use their skills now that is a bit broad, to now target a particular niche that they are interested in, or there's an interested lab in, so that they can now work and become specialists and experts. So like you said, I think that's something the Nigeria Academy of Science needs to work on. University of Ibadan, as an individual university, put that up. But probably Nigeria Academy of Science can't put that up and ask for maybe 3 universities in the country for TED Fund to designate them as centers of postdoctoral learning and co, and then come with the budget for it, and so that this amount, maybe 300, 500 yearly, can be taken into postdoc, and a maximum of maybe 2-3 years can be given for each person to be a postdoc under that scheme. I think it's something we can plan for. And more importantly, I think we also need to we have to screen and select those who will be postdoctoral mentees, because that can also create an illusion in the future. So people, they have to be in labs that are committed to research, that has a history of research, that has a history of mentoring, so that someone doesn't apply to somewhere to be a postdoctoral, and at the end of the day, he's doing less than his capacity for MSc.
Thank you very much. I see hands from Professor Ekpere and Professor Tomori. I'm not sure you can speak. We will appreciate if you can please type your questions in the Q&A.
I hope these our fathers can speak. I don't know whether
If they
the
can
host
speak,
can.
yeah.
Please, the host should
Madam
please find a
Blessing,
way to unmute our fathers to talk.
yeah. Madam Blessing, are you able to help us? Hello? There are no other questions in the Q&A. Are you able to please unmute Professor Ekpere FAS and Professor Tomori FAS to say what they want to tell us?
And then there's also Professor Babs FAS as well. I think
Yeah, and
Blessing was working
Professor
on that.
Babs. Okay.
She was working on muting them one after the other.
Okay, we have one more for you, Professor Olopade, while Madam Blessing can unmute the three of them to speak. The next question says, thank you from Professor Samuel FAS. The question says, thank you for the wonderful presentation. With the rapid advancement of technology worldwide, how do you think Nigeria is helping its own citizens keep up with these developments, given the common belief that going abroad offers greater opportunities and exposure?
Yes. If we go back 20, 25 years, when Google came, Google helped us. I mean, I was in that generation that was just starting his career when Google came. So we had access to literature, we had access to research findings, and it improved our capacity and capabilities. Now, and then there was investment, particularly from private sector, Scanet, government had put policy in place to support this. MTN came, Airtel, and so the infrastructure to support internet connection, universities started having their internet connectivity. So infrastructure came immediately to support that tool that we have. Now AI is coming. The government, the universities, we now have to wake up to our responsibilities to put in infrastructure that can support the reality now is AI in the universities is growing, but it's growing at individual levels. The students are now using AI. The teachers have no choice than to also increase our learning. Our students are already into it. So building the capacity to make sure that AI is strong, we have the broadbands to tackle them, is in place. But let's remember, research cuts across just apart from the technology. You need to do the actual research. And that's what we always drive people away. They need the consumables. They need the mass specs. They need the real-time PCR. They need the fluorescent microscopy. So that's always what will drive people to go to centers of excellence across the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Madam Blessing, I'm not sure if you have been able to, can they now speak? I'm assisting the bar on their, yeah, Professor Ekpere,
Yes,
Professor. Can they unmute and speak now?
Can you hear me now? Professor Tomari can speak. I've unmuted him. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. I couldn't find the Q&A on my laptop. That's why I couldn't go to the Q&A. I hope you are hearing me.
Sir, we can
Thank
hear
you very much, Professor Olopade, for this wonderful presentation. You know, my worry is first that we don't attack the problem. Why are the people leaving? Because the environment is not conducive. So when we set up a diaspora, the federal government to bring back people, and then you don't improve the situation that drove them away in the first place, we're just wasting our time and wasting our resources. I see Abike Dabiri in charge of diaspora. They come and hold all sorts of meetings in Nigeria. The condition is getting worse that drove those people away in the first place. How are they going to come back? People have come back into this country, to come and set up something, and they've been killed by armed robbers. And then you want them to come back. Come back to what? So you have to address the environment, both for scientific research and also the peace and all those other things to make people stay. Without that one, they forget it. It's too late for people like us now to go out. Where am I going to die? Die in Europe or die in Nigeria? It's too late. But for the younger people, they have got their chances ahead of them. That's number one. We too, in terms of the funding, government takes advantage of all these calls we're making, put the fund out and use it for something totally different from what they're saying. Recently, our country set up a task force on Ebola. Ebola is not COVID. And they put 10 billion on that one. And the chairperson of that person is Rajabi Amila, who is in the ministry, who is in the whatever they call the place in Aso Rock. Yet your own National Center for Disease Control, which is in charge of this one, you get them 4 billion to run the place for a whole year. And then you set up this whatever you call it, task force, technical temporary working group with 10 billion. We all know it's not for preparation. We all know it's preparation for election. So let's be able to talk out and say it to our government. They take advantage of the things you and I are saying, turn it upside down, and use it for a purpose which is not what we're meant for. But then we keep quiet and we don't talk about it. We should tell them. We know, obviously, that this 10 billion they are put on this Ebola thing is all fast. It's all for the election that is coming. So let them know that we know that they can't continue to fool us as we are that they are dissing. So for you and I, it is important. Environment is important. It's not until you create and change that environment, your people are not going to come back. Thank you, Olopade, for saying, and the rest of us that are saying. I don't blame those who are going. So this is us now. Let's talk to our government, improve the environment. Years ago in Ibadan, I used to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go and read my result at UCH. 6 p.m. now, I won't dare to go out of my house. Those are the things we should be talking about. Over.
Very much, sir, for your input. I don't know if Professor Olopade, do you have any response to Professor Tomori FAS before we?
If you don't respond to certain things, you learn from it.
Yes, a lot. Yes, he has said a lot there. Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate. Professor Okpere has dropped a comment in the box. We will need to also hear from Professor Babs before we wrap up.
Okay.
From
All
yes,
right. Thank you so much. This is Babs Oyeneyi.
Okay, sir.
Calling from Edinburgh. Yes, I don't know whether to call myself a Japa. I think I've been here for about 40 years. I'm a proud product of Nigerian University, and I have a lot of mentors within the academy. I think our doyen has said a lot about it, that Professor Tomori, but it's not, for people like me, it's not the security that actually prevents me from coming home. I think I have a two-way process. A part of the frustration is the lack of coherent policy. People like us have tried to come and, not just even using our brain power to come and invest in the country, even in my state, because my state is the poorest oil producing state in Nigeria. I would embarrass them by mentioning their name. But in trying to put a circular process plant there, they were asking for 33% equity in my company, and also want to translate part of that again into monetary issue. That's the problem. Many of us are still struggling to invest, and we're using our money to do it. You pay power. I've challenged our academy before, and they took that challenge. And we decided that we were going to set up a database during the regime of Professor Brady, and with the executive secretary. And we put a proposal, and there are other colleagues involved in that. There are over 40 top academics in Aberdeen alone. We had the Nigerian Nigerian Aberdeen Research Group to collaborate with the Academy of Science. And even the initial fund to get things started, I was even going to match the fund. As I'm speaking to you, and we went through to TED Fund with colleagues in the academy, we couldn't even see the director till tomorrow. Even during some of the investitures, I went on my own 3.5 hours. I was sitting in TED Fund reception, and the guy refused to see me. Then you ask yourself, do I own Nigeria? And that's the question our young people are asking. How do you have to flog yourself to death in order to support the country? And you see the looting going on in the country. People who cannot even polish our shoes, being declared billionaires in dollars and being freed by the courts. So let's address, just like Professor Tomori said, and if any of us out there can help us to unlock what is happening in TED Fund, to even get us to, we just wanted to even set up a database of Nigerians in Nigeria and in diaspora, even starting with Europe and America, so that even companies can be able to log in and to be able to search for the expertise that are available. We have, and I'm boasting about it, and I think Donald Trump has done the same. We have the highest number of intellectuals in the world. I'll challenge anybody that can oppose that in all disciplines. And please, I'm still appealing to the academy, don't let us get frustrated. I don't think we can deal with the ethical issues of Nigerians. People just like money, and those resigning and coming here, bank managers coming here to do career job. I have no respect for them. I think they need to think better. And we need to follow the process of the Chinese. So we can find within the government circle, but there seems to be a virus there. When some of our own academy members join the government, they seem to forget us. It's the same our people that are heading TED from PTDF. So if we can get the academy or people within the academy to be able to collaborate with the politicians and help us, even for us, start by building the database. We're already creating the system architecture, but the proposal is being buried there somewhere. Even the little money I put aside to even my fund, because I'm a pensioner now, I've decided that maybe I may have to put that money elsewhere for the benefit of my children. But I still want to challenge the academy. We shouldn't fail. We have a responsibility to this country. We cannot continue to just addressing the problem. We must find the solutions to the problem. I know it is frustrating. It's been frustrating for some of us, but we will continue to build on that. That's just all I want to say, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate you and your input. And from Professor Ekpere, his comment is that my name is Professor Johnson Ekpere. I have retired from UI for 25 years. I was Secretary of SAN when FAS was established. I'm not FAS. Those who have good ideas do not have access, unfortunately, in our country, Nigeria. We are mindful of time, and it's now 1 p.m. I don't know if we can take one more comment from Dr. Iyola Olatunji Mukaila. Madam Blessing, can we take his last comment before we wrap up?
Yes, ma'am, he's unmuted. He can speak.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. Dr. Iyola, the floor is yours. Hello? Are you able to unmute and speak, sir? I think he's having some challenges. Okay. Our time is up, and I would like to give a vote of thanks as we wrap up.
Actually,
this.
ma'am, there's one more question. Sorry to interrupt you. There's one more question in the Q&A box that wasn't addressed.
What is that? I can't find any. From?
There's one from Oluwapelumi Oyeni.
I can't see it from here. I see Babalola.
Okay, let
I
me just.
see. Yeah, please read it from your side. I can't see it.
It says in 2012, the then VC of Uni Osun mentioned something related to brain drain and drained brains. Do you reckon that the continuous brain drain has an impact on those who work back home in Nigeria? Does it have any impact at all?
Professor
Yeah, I've
Olopade.
talked about, yes, thank you, ma. I talked about it that you have
Okay, can you hear me now?
oh,
I think Professor Olopade should answer this question, then we can take you before we close.
Can I
Yes.
quickly come in?
let
Can
him
you
come
let
in. So I
quickly
just
come
take
in?
both questions together, ma.
Okay. Yes, you can speak, and then Professor Olopade can wrap up. Please proceed, sir. Dr. Yola, you can proceed. Hello? I think it's having some technical issues.
Yeah, so brain drain I spoke about it, that people become, even those who now remain, become disillusioned. They feel that some of their friends, capable hands, have left. Their decision, because maybe they also tried to leave, but they were not able to leave. It has also led to many people being overworked, because people leave and they are not replaced. So brain drain has affected the system. And in a situation where you have 10 people working and 8 of them are actually looking for the exit door, it's not good for any system. But now that I have this singular opportunity is to, I haven't listened to Professor Tomori and Professor Yeni, Professor Babs, is that I believe this strongly. There's a systems problem. If you want to work things through the system, it's tough. It would be good to have the Chinese built a system, but as at now, and Professor Tomori has encouraged us to keep making the advocacy, and which the Academy of Science, they are doing and have to keep doing, and go. But there's a system problem. But I don't think system problem should lead to total collapse. So people in the diaspora, you write NIH grants with overseas collaborators, reach out to your fellow colleague in Nigeria that you know has capacity, is training people, is back in Nigeria, but is a proven scientist. Let the collaboration between Nigerians increase. At least work with a lab that you know they are doing good work, support them, allow students to come from that lab to your lab in the US, in the UK, to come and do some of their bench work. Well, there's a system problem, there's security problem, but there can still be mobility of our young people. There can still be support with equipment and consumable, and capacity can still be built, and we can still be finding solutions to problems, no matter how little, while we are still looking for a better systems approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Olopade. We now need to bring this webinar to a close. And I would like to sincerely thank the ESCO, the entire team, ably led by Professor Sambo FAS. And would like to especially thank our speaker for today, Professor James Olopade, for the wonderful presentation and a lot that we have learned from your world of experience this afternoon. Special thanks also goes to the admin support team, Madam Blessing Oyema in particular, and the rest of the team, and to all participants on the team's call this afternoon. Thank you very much for spending your time with us, for joining us in the webinar. We look forward to your participation in the webinar and even many more people as well to join in. It's our hope that all that we have talked about today will translate into some level of implementation, that in our own little corner, we will try to brighten the corners where we are, where we find ourselves, and do the little we can do collaboratively and ensure that we look into how we can slow down the brain drain, have some level of brain gain, and also try to help in helping to ensure that brain fag is we no longer have brain fag in our country. On this note, I would like to thank the organizers for calling on me to moderate this webinar. It's been a pleasure. And I want to say thank you so much for the privilege and the opportunity. On this note, we draw the curtain, and then over to Dr. Odubanjo. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone. Have a lovely day. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.